Ladies and gentlemen, there's an old expression in my media circles. Happiness doesn't buy you love, it doesn't buy you success, and it doesn't buy you a World Series title. Today we're going to be looking at all three in one, because when Dave Winfield went to the Yankees after successful years with the Padres, we either thought it was going to be great, there'll be another Reggie Jackson incident where he's going to lead a team to successive World Series, or it can explode in Steinbrenner's face and Winfield's face, and that's what happened. So today we're talking about the 10-year term of Winfield in New York. Now, for people that see the New York Yankees in 2022, yes, they buy their team at times, they trade or they sign, but nothing is compared to the Winfield Steinbrenner era, where basically Steinbrenner lost his mind and literally worked behind the scenes to eventually put himself in jail over it. We'll talk about that in a second. Now, in December 1980, New York Yankees owner George Steinbrenner made Winfield the game's highest paid player by signing him to a 10-year, $23 million contract, which is equivalent to about $80 million in 2022. At the time, Steinbrenner, according to published reports, mistakenly thought he was signing Winfield for $16 million, unaware of the meaning of the cost of living clause in the contract, a misunderstanding that led to an infamous public feud. The $2.5 million annual average salary of the contract set a record at the time. He more than doubled the previous record set when Nolan Ryan signed with the Astros in '79. I think that was 1.25 or something. Winfield was among the highest rated players in the game throughout his Yankee contract. He was a key factor in leading the Yankees to the '81 American League pennant and a berth in the World Series. In the excited '81 American League Division Series, Winfield batted .350 with 2 doubles and a triple and made numerous important defensive plays, helping Yankees to a key victory over the defending AL champs, the Milwaukee Brewers. Unfortunately, Winfield had a subpar World Series, which the Yankees lost to the Dodgers in 6 games. After getting his only series hit, Winfield drunkenly asked for the ball. Steinbrenner, of course, did not find this humorous and criticized him at the end of the series. Many commentators have since noted that Winfield's postseason doldrums were somewhat overstated when compared to those of his squad mates. 4 of his 7 hits came in games won by the Yankees. The team's offense, for the most part, was inconsistent, and they were also set back by key injuries to phenom Reggie Jackson and the great Craig Nettles III, who each had only played 3 games with 1 combined RBI, the same as Winfield. Now, Winfield did not let Steinbrenner's antics affect his play. He eventually hit 37 homers in a great '82 season. Now, on August 4th, '83, in an infamous moment, Winfield killed a seagull by throwing a ball while warming up before the 5th inning of the game at Toronto's Exhibition Stadium against the Blue Jays. Fans in Toronto responded by hurling obscenities and improvised missiles. After the contest, he was brought to a nearby Metro Toronto police station and, get this, charged with cruelty to animals. He was released after posting a $500 bond, and Yankee manager Billy Martin quipped, and probably the funniest thing he's ever said, "It's the first time he's hit the cutoff man all season." I tend to agree. Charges were dropped the following day. As Winfield missed the Yankees team bus to Hamilton that night to catch their flight home, he was driven to the Ontario City personally by Blue Jays GM Pat Gillick. Now, in the off-season, Winfield returned to Toronto and benefited the people of the city and the province by donating two paintings for an Eastern Seals auction, which raised over $60,000. For years afterwards, Winfield's appearances in Toronto were greeted by fans standing and flapping their arms, of course, until the '92 season, when he was signed by Gillick for the Blue Jays, where he helped the Blue Jays win a World Series and had a key single in the deciding Game 6 against Atlanta. Now, from '81 to '84, Winfield was the most effective run producer in MLB. In the '84 campaign, he and teammate Don Mattingly were in a memorable race for the batting title, in which Mattingly won out by .003 points on the last day of the season. Now, Winfield finished with a .340 average, and in the last week of the race, it became obvious to most observers that the fans were not partial to him, but Mattingly. Winfield took this in stride, knowing that a similar thing happened in '61 when Mantle and Mears competed for the single-season home run record. Now, in '85, things were really starting to cool down. Steinbrenner derided Winfield by saying to New York Times writer Murray Chass, "Where's Reggie Jackson, who had left for the Angels? We need a Mr. October or a Mr. September. Winfield is Mr. May." Now, this criticism has become somewhat of an anachronism, as many cite the statement to Steinbrenner after the '81 World Series, but he never talked to such a high-level media. Now, Winfield at the time was struggling, while the Yankees eventually lost the division title to Toronto on the second-to-last day of the season. The Mr. May sobriquet lived with Winfield again until he won the World Series with Toronto in '92. Now, throughout the late 1980s, Steinbrenner, in a very, very negative state, regularly leaked derogatory and fictitious stories about Winfield to the press. Now, I can't repeat this, but let me tell you, it involves Mike Tyson's ex-wife's mother. Look it up. He also forced Yankee managers to move him down the batting order and bench him. Steinbrenner frequently tried to trade him, but Winfield's status as a 10-5 player, 10 years in the majors, 5 with a single team, meant he could not be traded without his consent. Winfield continued to put up excellent numbers with the Yankees, driving in 744 runs between '82 and '88, and was selected to play in the All-Star game every season. Now, he also won 5 of his 7 Gold Glove awards for his stellar outfield play as a Yankee. Now, in '89, Winfield missed the entire season due to a back injury. 1990 was the last year of his contract with the Yankees, but the troubles with Steinbrenner and his feud with Winfield continued to escalate. He had a rusty spring training before being relegated from the field to being DH. Further troubles led to being just a DH for left-handed pitchers. On May 11th, manager Bucky Dent and GM Pete Peterson met in a room with the intent of starting a trade of Winfield for the great Mike Witt of the Angels. Now, Winfield stepped in the room and stated his refusal to be traded. The argument over whether his 10-5 rights overrode his list of having the Angels on his trade list failed to meet an impasse when Angels owner Gene Autry came in with a 3-year extension. That year, he proceeded to hit 19 homers in 112 games for the Angels in the remainder of the 1990 season. As for Steinbrenner, he attempted to curry favor by stating to Winfield that he would welcome him back openly if he had won the arbitration case. By this point in the month of May, he was already under investigation by Commissioner Fay Vincent for his apparent connections to Howard Spira, a known gambler with supposed mafia connections, whom he paid $40,000 for embarrassing information on Winfield. Again, the allegations. Now, a month later, the team received a fine that required him to pay money to the league and the Angels for tampering, and soon Steinbrenner received a lifetime ban. However, the suspension lasted only 2 years. Now, this is a miniature version of what happened in New York between Steinbrenner and Winfield, but if you can imagine, you know how the death of Queen Elizabeth was plastered all over the UK press. I remember big headlines, New York Post, all the news, all the tabloid papers. It was beyond. There was all kind of allegations of sexuality, of, I don't know, I can't even repeat them because it's just completely ludicrous. But he had won 2 World Series with Reggie in '77 and '78, and you thought that Winfield was going to be another Reggie. Now, I hope you take it the right way. Winfield is a much better athlete than Reggie Jackson, but he wasn't a money player. He was consistent. You never know. Andre Dawson, Montreal is the best comparison. Andre Dawson had a terrible playoff in '81, especially in the ANL final against the Dodgers, and if he would have got 3 hits in key points, Montreal would have swept that series, but they were hoping that Jerry White and Rodney Scott would drive in runs, or Larry Parrish. It wasn't going to happen. But Winfield, in his prime, consistently, day by day, was the best pound-for-pound player in baseball. He could hit infield, all the different plays. But in New York, it's a fishbowl, because when something doesn't work, and Steinbrenner is always talking to the press, and like I said, I know this is completely bizarre. I don't mention his name very often, but Donald Trump thinks he ran the media there when he was president. He didn't run the media. Steinbrenner, as soon as he said something, 2 minutes later, was in the paper. And see, Steinbrenner was getting covered by the left-wing press and the right-wing press, while Trump was only stroking the right-wing press. New York, it sold papers. I would suspect over 500 million papers were sold directly by Steinbrenner. He's feud with Billy Martin. He's feud with Jackson. He's feud with the media. He's feud with the Major League Baseball higher-ups, and of course with Winfield. But It was kind of weird here. If he wouldn't have left New York, we wouldn't have won the World Series in '92. We bought our team for Toronto. It's not like the current incarnation of the Blue Jays, where the majority of our players are either young prospects we got from other teams, like not really developed free agents, or young players. Like you look at Kirk and Guerrero and Bichette and Biggio and Gurriel. I mean, the names are endless. But it was a heady time, ladies and gentlemen. When the Yankees would come on, it was like the soap opera. And one guy in my circle called it Days of Our Yankees. Doesn't really ring off the tongue, but pretty good. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing, we're going to be doing a series on articles on strange occurrences in the 1980s, and nothing stranger than the Winfield versus Steinbrenner, or Steinbrenner versus Winfield feud. Playoffs are coming up. Cheer for your favorite team. Phillies are back. Blue Jays are hosting. Yankees would judge, got a good chance. Astros are always a big World Series contender. The Dodgers as well. It's probably one of the most interesting Major League Baseball playoffs in years, not seen since the mid-2010s when the Blue Jays were in a pennant race, heavy against Cleveland and Kansas City. Anyway, thanks for listening. Bye.